Ah, Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Ah, Okay, this little spot down here today. Filling in these gaps. Got maybe a little yawning animal. So I don't know how little they are. Alligator snapping turtle portrait. At least, at least one. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Popping in. Pull up a seat. Well, thank you. I will let my materials know. I'm sure they'll appreciate the compliment. Let's see. This pencil, it's a. Well, this is really just a pencil holder, so it's a Unifield. It's a 2 millimeter lead holder. I just have it in red because I'm using red lead, um, which is. Let's see, where are you at, red lead? Must be in here. There it is. Yeah, it's that's orange. One orange left in there. Where's the red stuff at? I think the red is just a uni thing, but I don't see the refill thing. But it's just a 2 millimeter red lead that you can buy. It's getting short in there too, so hopefully I can figure out where I put the refill box down. So you can get the red, and you can get 2 millimeter lead in different types, and then use one of these pencil sharpeners here. So you stick it in there, spin it around. Um, Technically, you can use oftentimes like the Statler ones, you can actually use the tip to sharpen with, but it just makes a mess. But I guess in a pinch it works. Yeah, I think I got them all on Amazon. Um, Other place I like to get art supplies is jetpens.com. In the United States, anyway. They sell a lot of Japanese. So I need to go up a lot higher. Um, but yeah, jetpens.com. They sell a lot of good drawing supplies. They're usually only available in Japan. So I buy stuff off of there from time to time. Life's going pretty good, just keeping busy. Semester started this week, so I had my first week of classes to teach. Looks like, a good group of students excited about the future. Um, So yeah, that's going good. You know, just a good start of the year. Teach you some art. Well, I do have a teaching website, so most of what's on there right now is my perspective courses. Hoping to get back to finalizing one of the courses, hopefully maybe over the weekend, we'll see. Um, it's been kind of sitting on the back burner for a while with some life events, but so that's good. Yeah, so you should learn perspective. Important skill to master for comics. Um, but yeah, over at myartprofessor.com. Yeah, it kind of walks you through all the steps very carefully to make it a lot easier to use and master. It makes a big difference for your work. I also put it in the context of lenses, which I think not a lot of people do that I've seen. So showing how perspective works is like, you know, as if you're in a camera. And that makes, I think, a big difference for how people understand it and use it, and make it more meaningful rather than just being, you know, an abstract concept. And you know, my courses are also student tested. So you know, my students have done these projects, so it's not just me theoretically thinking it might be a good idea. You know, real people have suffered um, through the process, and so yeah, those are really important. The Platonic forms, as they called it my as they call them at my graduate school, which I got reminded about recently. Yeah, you know, mastering the forms makes a big difference, right? So the Platonic solids, using your cubes and your cylinders and your ovoids, um, etc. You know, that definitely helps with the mastery of them. You know, breaking down everyday objects into the Platonic solids, into forms, helps you understand how they fit together. Do I have a double screen? No, it shows up on my screen. I see who comes and I see who sends a message. I have another screen too for the. I'm broadcasting on YouTube and Twitch and Kick and DLive all at the same time, and I have another screen that's got all of the chats go up there. But I see the Instagram ones on my phone. They're just there on the screen at the bottom half. I assume you're seeing them too. Um, I appreciate that. Just doing my little warm up here, looking at some reference. Yeah. Yeah, I'm only on here for about an hour in the morning, maybe a little bit less, depending on how things go. I'm just kind of gradually filling up this page. Kind of draw some dinosaur and some dragons. Well, alligator snapping turtles kind of almost the same thing as both of those, right? You ever seen one in real life at the zoo? They are scary animals. Um, you do not want to get too close. They've been around a long time. These alligator snapping turtles. They've perfected their form. They've reached the final form, right? Yeah, and they're crazy fast, right? You ever watch them like attack something or someone? And I think their necks can go all the way behind them. So they're just like not an animal you want to play around with. It's probably the kind of animal alligators leave alone, and they can like just they can chop a hand right off. Yeah, the alligator snapping turtles, they're a pretty unique one though. I think of the snapping turtles because they're so big, and then their shells are really scary looking. Um, but I'm a fan. They're the real world is such a crazy place. Um, we get used to things being strange, but there really are some amazing critters out there, like the snapping turtle. I don't know all the varieties, but I think aren't they all North American turtles? What is my favorite philosophy? I don't know. That's a pretty broad term. I'm definitely an individualist. But that doesn't mean I don't like working with other people. Um, I think there's a comic book called Rook Exodus, and I think he's got giant snapping turtles in the book. It's about a planet that is terraformed, but the terraforming machine has broken down, and basically all the animals are kind of going crazy, and they're getting really big. It's like there's bears as big as buildings, and giant wolves, and crazy crows, and whatnot. And it follows the story of a guy who's trying to build a rocket ship to get off the planet, and with his best friend, who's a warden of pigs, and they run into problems with other people trying to deal with the situation on the planet. So it's a pretty cool little book. I think they're finally back in the monthly printing after a little bit of a break. Yeah. There's actually a hardcover for the first part, which I kind of would like to get. There's probably a lot of cool extra stuff in there that you can get on Amazon. but rook like the chess piece, and then Exodus. Um, which yeah, I've thought about picking that up. I just don't know where I put it. I've got like my bookshelf space is all um, taken up. Which books have helped me get better? I always recommend the Loomis books, of course. Um, Figure drawing for all it's worth, creative illustration, successful drawing, drawing heads and hands. Those are all really great books to check out if you haven't picked them up. You can get them relatively inexpensively now in the hardcovers. They used to be out of print, and they put them back into print a few years back. You just get them, but they're from the 40s, and a lot of really great advice in there about illustration and composition and storytelling and how to draw people and places and things. Another one I really like on figure drawing is by, what's his name? He's less well known. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. I'll remember later. But it's another book from kind of a similar time period that I like a lot. I like the Marcos Mathieu Meister books, especially the early ones like Framed Ink. Well, yeah, the book's actually, it's pretty basic stuff. You just kind of take it page by page, see what he's saying, try it out, kind of go from there. But he breaks it down. You just have to actually do the stuff in there. Yeah, I like the Marcos Mathieu Meister ones, kind of more contemporary. What's the name of that other book? Drawing the Human Figure and something by. What's his name? It's too early to remember that, but I have it downstairs. I reference it all the time. It's got a lot of kind of interesting thoughts in it. How to Draw by Robert Scott, or you think it's Scott Robertson? I think those books are really good. They're a little technical, which I think can be really helpful. Yeah, Scott Robertson. Yeah, he's really good. Actually, a book that's really good that I think is timeless is the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. It's got great stuff on there on drawing figures, making better scenes, working on your compositional skills. It might be one of the best beginner books on drawing and storytelling. I like that one quite a bit. Yeah, have a good one. Yeah, but that one's always really good too, I think. It's interesting that last quote didn't show up on here. The question is, learning psychology really useful in using colors and composition? Are you supposed to get maybe. I mean, it depends on what psychology you're looking at and what they have to say about color. I think certain colors definitely have certain effects. Like I think red really sticks out to humans. Well, there's certain colors like that we just see more of. For example, we see a lot more reds and yellows and oranges than we see blues. In terms of the visible light spectrum, visible to us light spectrum. And so kind of knowing that means, if you kind of lean into blue, you're tending to lean into the reds, you tend to lean into more of what we see. Whereas blue, when we go over here, we don't see as much of that. Red's also kind of the color of life, which is probably part of the reasons why we see so much of it. It's the color of blood. It's the color of fertility. It's the color of ripe fruit. So it's kind of an important color in terms of just like those basic things. and is a big reason why we see so much of it. So kind of understanding why we see color the way we do. Then there's different cultural notions about color, right? So in some cultures, white is purity, but in other cultures, white means death. And there's, bones. And so, there's a contextual issue with color as well that you need to be at least somewhat aware of for culture. Green, blues often indicate freshness because, water and plant life and all of that. So it just depends on what side the psychology you're looking at has to say about color. But any kind of real information can be helpful. This right here, it's not a pen. This is a brush. It's a Sumi brush from Deleter. I get these usually on jet pens. I'll buy a bunch of them, but it's kind of has a rough hair. This has been used for a while, so it's super sharp. They come in different sizes. Sometimes they look a little bit frayed like this, but I get it wet, and it can sharpen up pretty quick. But I also don't mind if it's like this because I can get a nice kind of feathered stroke. So I can dip this in here, get most of the hair off, get most of the ink off, and then you can do like multiple strokes. When it's been feathered out. It is very soft and floppy, so it does take some practice to get used to. You have to use a really light touch, unless you're making a big heavy mark. But I like the multiple stroke thing that you can do with it. Yeah, so they're really both the same. It's the same brush. It's the same hair. This one's just been more frayed out like that. And this one can do the same thing. It just depends on how I draw. It's just really old, so it's lost a lot of its hairs. They're really cheap, actually. These brushes are really, really cheap. I think it's just like a basic horsehair or something. They come in there's different kinds of hairs you can get, but I like them. It has a nice kind of organic quality to it, and so I like it. You have to use like I'm barely touching the paper to get that sharp, sharp line. And if you want a different kind of stroke like that, you just kind of push down and pull up. I spent a lot of time studying inking over the last couple of years, and so trying to identify techniques and things that I can use for myself. Yeah, so I like these ones quite a bit. Yeah, so it's a leader. I think it's the medium size. They come different size. This is the medium. Got a large around here. The smallest is a little too small, but but I like it. Dark. That's better. Yeah, but it's the same brush, so. He is doing good. He just walked over to the other bed. So it's just, here, let me show you. It's just right over there. Yep. Like, why are you pointing that thing at me? That's Mr. Bosch. He's just hanging out. Sleepy morning. But, so. It's funny, my favorite thing about that hair dryer, outside of the fact that it works, I like that I can do this with it. I can fold it. So then it just sticks on my little art tray over here. I can just plop it down. Alright, we're going to work on filling these gaps in around him. Maybe with some mechanical stuff for the next bit. Or some eyes, too. We can do that. Where are all the books I've worked before? What do you mean? Like, yeah, I'm not sure. It's a cool cat, though. Stick that over there. Maybe like I like one thing, it'll like, there's 100 of these other things that you didn't ask about, but we're going to throw it at you anyway. So there we go, mechanical. Comics, I've never made a comic book. I mean, I've worked on my own pages for a project that I'm doing, but I have no professional involvement with comics at all. I'm working on a project that I think will hopefully be interesting for a lot of people, but um, I have no experience myself. Um, I'll play with bits of that. Is Rainbow Studios a publishing company? I have no idea. I don't know what that is. So maybe? Could be. I'm not familiar with the name. Or you mean Rainland Studios? Is that what you're talking about? The name of my company. So it's a company I started that has helped me kind of manage my tax stuff. So that's just me. It's just me. So, um, yeah, I was like Rainbow Studios. Never heard of that one, but yeah, Rainland. That's just it's just me. just a company I made. So I handle any of the business stuff I do. So it's the teaching side I have, any freelance I might do, um, publishing, selling art stuff. That's what it's for. Um, that's what that is. Yeah, so that's what that is. It's just me. Um, it's named after my family history a little bit, so that's where the name comes from. Um, it's kind of a direct translation of Lithuania. So Lithuania kind of means rain land. Lietuva is where my ancestors, my most of my ancestors on my, I'm 1/4 Lithuanian, so that's the largest proportion of my family history is from there. And so I learned to speak it in my early 20s. It's like being a really not cool weeb, I guess. But as who wants to speak that language, right? Kas žino ta kalba, retai būna, kada žmogus gali šnekėti lietuviškai. But I was into it, so at the time. But yeah, so that's what it's from. It's a direct translation. The word for rain in Lithuanian is lietus. And so Lietuva is like rain land or land of rain. Yeah, I speak a few languages. English is my native language. Um, I speak Russian from high school and college, and also living in Eastern Europe for a while, along with Lithuanian. And then I speak some Cantonese, but I'm really out of practice. Well, really, I'm out of practice for all of them, but especially that one. I lived in Hong Kong for a number of years and spent a lot of time and effort studying the language while I was living there, which not many people do just because everyone in Hong Kong speaks English really well. But I felt like I should, if I'm going to live there, I should speak the language. And, what kind of resident would I be if I didn't make any attempt to do that? So, So yeah, spent a lot of time. And there's probably better things I could have done to master it better, but you know, but I don't live there anymore, so it's a moot point, and nothing I can really worry about now. And these sketchbook pages, I like to fill in the backgrounds all the way, so I found an image which got some mechanical stuff, which is always good for me to practice, right? Practice my perspective a bit. Let's see. Well, it's good times, right? It's just kind of my morning warm up, so I spend like an hour on this, but but you are putting out a comic, I saw, so that's a bigger step than just daily practice, right? The real trick is making an excuse for your teaching to practice, right? So um, having a class where you have to prep a certain amount, and I just have to, I gotta spend a bunch of time oil painting or whatever. Um, you know, how's that Ringling life treating you? Living in the SRQ. Ah, lecture preps, huh? That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. I've got a new class I'm doing this semester, but sci-fi, fantasy, illustration, and one class I've done before. And so, sci-fi fantasy one's pretty straightforward. So it's like it's just making sure I'm walking them through the process over and over again. The only thing I've actually been changing a bunch in my teaching, because I'm teaching these communication arts students, is trying to emphasize and create projects where they're making a pro product, not just the project. Got some stuff to fill in there. That seems all good. But so like they're not just doing a book cover illustration; they're actually making the dust jacket. Designing the dust jacket, putting the text on there, and making sure the image sits really well on it. I was inspired by a project I saw Sterling Hundley working on over the last year. Especially last spring, he was creating this 4K DVD release for Criterion of Kurosawa's Ran movie. And he wasn't just doing the illustrations on the cover or the interiors and other things, he was doing the full package. And I'm not requiring students to go to that level because he literally spent, months on this project, researching and all that good stuff. And but looking at what he was doing, that I was like, better idea of the students would go like beyond, just go beyond, the project and see how it fits in the situation. So, kind of expand their skill set, make them take advantage of past classes a little bit more. So they got to take advantage of their typography class that they've had, or their graphic design class, or the digital drawing class, their Adobe class. And so to kind of bring all those skills together more and more. Um, so, um, so I started doing that. So like, when they're doing their concept class, they're presenting them in a consistent format. We're hoping to actually kind of push it even further with changes I've been kind of helping push through the program. So, um, um, I feel like it's going to yield some good results over time. I did have one student kind of rage out about it, among other things, but she was like, it's a graphic design class. We spend so much time doing graphic design, not our illustrations. And it's like, well, you don't spend a lot of time doing your illustrations. Really the graphic design part's the final bit. It's not the focus. Um, but yeah, that was pretty funny. Or I think I know who it was. When you get like a student who rages out like that, and it's the only one that does, you're like, I kind of think I know who that was. But I just feel bad for her because it's like, well, if you kind of just had a conversation, I probably could have answered some of these concerns you have. You know, but oh well. Like, you're sitting in a room and someone else is having an entirely different experience than everybody else. It's kind of interesting. The what can happen. Like, I don't ever grade on students whether they like me or not or agree with me. So it's like it's okay to disagree with me ever. Always. You have to do what I say, in the class, as far as the assignments go. You got to turn things in, but you are welcome to have opinions, even if they're the wrong ones. I don't expect 20-year-olds to have sufficient life experience to have fully analyzed their positions on things and you know articulate them. They're still figuring it out, so I don't really care. I really, one thing I didn't like about Ringling was that midweek break. much rather have a 3-day weekend than the midweek break. It just kind of throws everything off. It always takes me, if I'm depending on my teaching schedule, like a day or two to like figure out what's going on. Not a day or two, but like it takes me, a morning or whatever to kind of get my groove back, and if I have to do that twice, it just kind of it's a problem for me. I remember talking to some Ringling professors; they really like that kind of Wednesday break schedule. Um, but I just didn't like it. I prefer Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday with a long weekend. More focused time. But no one ever asked me. Let's see. I'm filling in the gaps here the rest of the time rather than moving the camera around. Hey, Bosh, how you doing? How are we looking the bed? Are you okay down there? Let's see. What's there? our way around. There we go. Let's get that dried off. All right, Lush. You're a good boy, huh? All right. Let's get some this filled in here. I realize I should probably just fill this up to at least his shoulder, right? So this would get the all right. Darken down so I can pop some highlights on there. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. There's a lot of amazing artists out there, right? Easier to find too. I'm gonna just pop some highlights in this one. So those rulers don't fall on top of my poor dog. Alright, where's my highlight brush? There we go. Nice happy turtle on there, right? Insert some of those white outlines here. Alrighty, I think we're done for the morning warm up. Look at what I've got going on in my little checklist and see what I'm doing with my day. Right? So thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it. So I got to write on here, pin ref, right? I do appreciate the Pinterest. What is today? The 16th? There we go, pin ref. All right. Thanks everybody came in. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you all later.